All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're taking on a massive, almost impossibly huge topic, global hunger. But we're going to look at it from a totally different angle. What if the solution isn't just about growing more food? What if it's about building a smarter system? Like a whole new operating system for how we feed humanity.
First things first, let's just get our heads around the problem. That number you see, 735 million, that's not a statistic, it's people. And here's the absolute paradox at the heart of all this. We already produce more than enough food on this planet to feed every single one of them. So what on earth is going wrong? And boom, there it is. This is the core idea we're exploring today, and it just reframes everything. The problem isn't a lack of stuff. It's not scarcity. The problem is that the systems we've built, our economies, our governments, our supply chains, they're just not aligned with the really basic goal of getting food to people who need it.
Okay, so if we're saying this is an alignment problem, then we have to figure out where it's misaligned. We've got to look under the hood of the current system and see exactly why a world that has so much can still have so much hunger.
And this right here really breaks it down. It's not just one thing, right? It's a whole mess of conflicting incentives. We throw away perfectly good food in places that have too much. We pay farmers more to ship their crops thousands of miles away than to feed their own communities. And our aid systems? They're built to react to a famine after it's already started, not to prevent it. Every single one of these is just a symptom of a broken, misaligned system.
This slide just lays out those core conflicts so clearly. You've got governments trying to balance trade deals while their own citizens are going hungry. You've got corporations focused on quarterly profits, even if it harms the long-term health of a community. The whole system is just pulling itself apart in all these different directions.
So, let's talk about the solution. Because if the problem is a faulty system, then the only real answer is to build a new one. The source material calls it Intent OS, and I think that metaphor of an operating system is just perfect. It's about rewriting the basic code that our global food supply runs on.
And check out this shift. It's huge. On the left, that's our world right now. It's all about profit, volume, short-term gains. But on the right, that's Intent OS. It's optimized for what really matters, human outcomes, making sure incentives are aligned, and building a resilient system. It's about changing the very definition of what success even means.
And this, right here, is the heart of it. It all comes down to asking a different question. The market today asks, where can we make the most money? This new system asks, where is the need and who has extra? Just by changing that one fundamental question, you get a completely different and, frankly, a much more humane flow of resources.
Okay, so that's the big idea. It sounds great in theory, right? But how do you actually do it? How does this go from being a philosophy to being real-world infrastructure? Let's get into the nitty-gritty of how this coordination engine would actually work.
It really comes down to these three things. First, you predict problems before they become full-blown crises. Second, you rewire the rules so that everybody, corporations, governments, everyone is motivated to solve the problem. And third, you connect the supply to the need. Predict, rewire, connect. Simple as that. So let's look at that first piece, prediction. And we're not talking about a crystal ball here. This is about crunching massive amounts of data. You combine AI modeling, climate forecasts, crop yield data, even conflict risk analysis, and the system can start to see a food crisis forming months before it actually hits.
And that changes everything. Look at this. We go from the old way, oh no, people are starving, quick, send aid, to the new way, which is an alert that says, hey, this region is going to cross a risk threshold in 90 days. Let's realign resources now. You stop managing crises, and you start managing the system to prevent them. It's a total game changer.
Now for step 2, incentive rewiring. And this is so important. This isn't about begging companies or governments to be nicer. It's about changing the actual rules of the game so that their own success is directly tied to human survival, not just profit margins.
So, what does that look like? Well, imagine a world where big corporations get a public alignment score that shows their real impact on local nutrition. Imagine governments using dashboards that show them in real time if their policies are helping or hurting. You make doing the right thing a measurable, visible, and even profitable outcome. And that last point is huge. Routing surplus food through decentralized systems means local networks can get food where it needs to go way faster and more reliably.
And finally, step 3, connect. This part is handled by a platform called Conectrr. You can think of it like a smart logistics network. It's the piece that connects a farmer who has extra crops directly to a community that's showing a need. It takes those small, remote populations that are often invisible in global data and puts them on the map, making sure the system can actually see them and serve them.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. If you could actually build a system like this and roll it out globally, what would that really mean? The impact goes way beyond just hunger. You're talking about rewriting the fundamental rules of how our world works.
I mean, look at this list. The ripple effects would be incredible. You'd slash food waste. You'd help stabilize fragile countries. You could actually reduce conflicts that are often sparked by fights over resources. And maybe the biggest thing of all, you could start to shift the entire goal of global policy away from just chasing GDP and towards prioritizing human survival and well-being.
Now, let's be real. The source material is very clear. This isn't some magic wand that fixes everything overnight. It's not a magic bullet. But what it is a direct, focused attack on the actual root cause of the problem, that systemic misalignment of intent we talked about at the very beginning. And really, that's the whole thing in a nutshell. For centuries, we've been treating hunger like it's a scarcity problem, or maybe a charity problem. But what if, all along, it's actually been a coordination problem? And if that's the case, then the answer isn't just more food or more aid. The answer is a better coordination engine.